Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Shamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Did you miss me?
Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys. Well, wouldn't you know it? A new speculation map has come out. Very interesting. Who would have thunk? Everyone, because they said that come June they'd be putting out some speculation maps. But today's episode, we are going to be diving into that speculation map. Version 3.0 dropped to us from the Horror Night Nightmares. So a good amount of change so far, whether it's properties, names, stuff like that. A lot of locations switched. We got scare zones to talk about. We have a show that has shown back up. Lots to discuss. So I guess we should get into it. That's pretty much the basic of the episode. Are you got any drinks over on your end? What do you crack into?
No, unless you count water alcoholic.
Well,
I am
sometimes.
completely out of beer right now. I am bone dry at the moment, and it's not by choice. I just haven't had a chance. I mean, I guess I could pop one of the peach apple cider things my wife's got at the bottom of the fridge. She hasn't drank in like 3 months, so I could drink one of those, I guess. You know what?
She won't notice
For the sake of the
6 months.
podcast, and for the sake of the people, I'm gonna drink a cider. I hate ciders. So this is gonna be interesting. Give me 1 second.
All right. Well, I dipped back into the old well reliable, and my buddy that came over a couple weeks ago had some leftover shipyard pumpkin heads. So I'm jumping into a pumpkin head. And I have no idea when this thing was bottled, so I do not know the exact taste that I'm going to get. Could be fresh. You know, I mean, I don't think it's a fresh one, obviously, but we'll. I guess we'll see. It doesn't smell too off or skunked, but
And I was wrong. This is even worse. It's Angry Orchard, but it's a peach mango cider. Not even.
ooh, okay.
What did I say? Pear apple, whatever. No, this is going to be even worse.
All right. Well, my pumpkin head is actually not too skunked.
Is that
up.
like
It still
a-
has some
is that-
decent taste?
I was going to say, is that like a pumpkin head from like last October?
I think so.
Oof. Oof.
It's still all right.
We're both pretty dry.
It's
then.
doable. This is So yeah. So this episode
smells terrible.
This is a
Sorry.
throw together episode for us because we knew we had to talk about this.
Oh, that's not good.
And no, not good at all.
Well, not good at all. It's okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna
boy.
power through though.
Is it worse than that? What's worse, this one or remember when we had those like pumpkin cappuccinos?
Oh well, that was
like a
worse.
year.
Yeah, no, that was terrible. That was an awful idea.
Oh God! But for the sake of the podcast, I guess. But yeah, so this is kind of a throw together. We're gonna run through this stuff quickly. We always say quickly, and it never ends up being quickly. But
It never ends up.
I did just get back from setting up our booth for Spooky Empire. So when you're listening to this,
Let's go.
what are you doing? Come on down and say, hey, we are at Spooky Empire. It's at the Wyndham, right on iDrive in Orlando. It's a 3-day, horror convention. There's a lot of vendors, some celebrities. We did a whole episode on it last week, diving into who's going to be there, what we're going to have, and stuff like that. So we don't need to spend time on it. But when you're hearing this, yeah.
Well, I was just saying
calm down.
they did. They added a Horror Nights
Panel.
roundtable.
Yeah,
panel
tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4, right? So
We'll
I'm gonna
try
try
and
to be
sneak
there
into
before 4, so I can see it. Otherwise, I will miss it. But I'll definitely be there tomorrow at some point. Just come find us. We'll be there. We'll be willing to chit chat, talk a little bit, talk shop.
Yeah.
And,
We got a lot of cool stuff. We're doing a lot of raffles. We got some t-shirts for sale. I got stickers, magnets, keychains, koozies, coasters, and then we have a whole bunch of little arts and crafts done from my mother and our friend Alicia from Hazelton Handmade. So come on down. We're going to be there. It looks really cool already. The whole place is coming together really nice.
Yeah.
But
it's always a fun time.
yeah. let's dive into this speculation map.
Yeah. So Horror Night
So
Nightmares, you
changes
guys
right
are
off the get-go.
the man.
We're gonna start with A and work our way through J. One little thing that did change, which I don't know if it's just the Horror Night Nightmares folks being cheeky, but in the Halloween from Universal's Halloween Horror Nights up on the top, they threw a little pumpkin in there instead
They
of an
did.
O. So I'm not sure if that's just on their end that they're fooling around with, or maybe that's something that's maybe that's been on logos, and I haven't really paid attention to that small detail, but I noticed it here.
No, it looks like the older ones had a regular O, so that's new.
Mhm. So I just
mean, it
don't
could
know
just
if
be like
Universal's used that.
Yeah. Oh, that I don't know. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
question. I don't know. I mean, my guess is probably not. They probably can't even really use. I guess they can because no one's gonna say. I mean, they're not selling this. So either way, the point is, I've never seen it before. But then again, don't go by what I say because I, I haven't seen a lot of things. So I think it's probably just like a little cheeky nod to Halloween because that was the latest drop. But
Yeah.
who knows?
All right. So we're going to start haunted houses at location A. So location A, this is a big change right here. So on the second version of the map, location A was right in front of Rip Ride Rocket, and that was Stranger Things. Now, not only has that changed, but the location itself has changed as well. And I think that's pretty interesting because I'd have to do a deep dive to see when something else was here. But now Stranger Things, it's completely off the map.
I was gonna say, are we gonna talk about the fact that it's gone? Like,
yeah, I mean,
not even like moved. Like we're talking about, this new one is in place of it, but
mm-hmm.
yeah, Stranger Things isn't even on the map at this point. So
Just crazy. A little
that's
crazy
crazy to me because of the next one we're gonna talk about, the fact that it's back. But I mean, they know
so
something. They've gotten a couple right so far, but
yeah. So we'll go through these letters, and then I guess at the end we'll kind of round table it. But A is now just called Witch, and it's an original. And the location also changed. So if you notice on the map, that A is now at the start of where the scare zone is when you walk into the park.
right.
So that is
It's where
in between Minions and the store. So there's that's new for these
location,
maps,
right?
and it's interesting because it does that the title Witch ties in a little bit to the scare zone that's up front, and we'll loop back around to that once we get to the scare zones. But not much is known about this. I mean, Witch, it's pretty basic. There's nothing there for us to go off of. Is it a Wicked Growth prequel with the witch that conjured up the Pumpkin Lord?
Remember, just so everybody knows, if you haven't seen the map yet, that's also no longer on it from the last one, which is
Wicked Growth 2 is not on this map, so
not on the map anymore.
Is that story going to kind of tie into the lore, and we're not going to get a Wicked Growth 2 sequel right off the bat? Because 1 year after another, that's a quick turnaround for a sequel house. So maybe we're digging into the lore, or maybe it won't be touched on. I don't know. Maybe it's just witches. But what would you rather? Are you picturing, when you saw this, did you picture like your classic like green warty witch with like a cauldron, or like old school 1600s like Salem witch trials?
I think probably more the latter. I hope it's not like I'll get you in your little dog
right.
type witch. Like I don't want that.
Give me your bones.
No, what I'm interested is like they're obviously using some font type that's like it's not just like a standard block lettering that they could use for anything. I don't know. I don't know if you recognized the font. I don't know.
No,
if
it's an original, so I didn't do much deep diving into like which properties
like
in the past.
IP or an original or an earlier original that used the same font, but
I honestly don't think so. Which leads me to believe the fact that this came so late. And I guess we should have said it from the get-go. This speculation map, these guys put these maps together just by scouring any
this
kind of
isn't like
forums,
confirmed or
whatever. This
anything
is a
like that. Yeah, don't
compilation.
take this as confirmation or anything like that.
Yeah, this is a compilation of like the most recent stuff that they may or may not have heard. This isn't like 100% leaks. This is scouring forums, talking to people, possibly seeing stuff here and there. And this is like just a hodgepodge, like, the 10 most talked about things. So, like, could 4 of these things not even be here? 100%. I mean, after seeing Fear Street come and go, Stranger Things come and go, I think it's safe to say anything is is like on the cutting room floor. So, which uh, if it ties into the scare zone that it is, I'm thinking traditional, I'm thinking old school witches, but like we'll see if it stands because again, things have been changing a lot.
Yeah, and which,
And
I mean, let's be
who
honest,
knows?
which, especially in today's world, today's horror culture, I think witch can mean a number of things. It doesn't necessarily mean, broomsticks and cauldrons. It also doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily just mean Salem witch trials either. I mean, there's a number of things you could take the witch terminology or just the witch theme
Yeah,
and do a
could
number
be
of
Wiccan
different things
themed,
with
like
it. It could be Wiccan themed, right? It could be more of a darker take on typical witchcraft. I mean, there's a number of ways they could go with it. My guess is that maybe for the sake of just people going to the event, they may make it more traditional. But if it sticks, which again they're pretty good at getting these right, if it sticks, I'm hoping that they do something special with it or different with it. But at least it's not zombies, I guess,
yeah,
is the biggest
yep.
thing for me.
No, it's cool. I mean, I'm into it. I think if I had to lean towards one, I'd rather that like Wiccan, like trial-y era, like that old school, and as much as I hate the movie The Witch, I think that atmosphere, that
Yeah, I agree
style
with
is what I
you.
prefer.
I would rather it be like a group of devil worshippers or witch worshippers or something along
Mhm.
those lines. More of a I'm not trying to say that Wiccans are devil worshippers, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like I don't
But
want
that
people to
that yeah,
get
that
angry with me, but
exactly. No, that I don't know the right term for it, but that realm.
yeah, right.
But yeah, so that'll be interesting. And then, like I said, we'll talk about which again once
So the
we get down
question
to
before we move
the
on to the
scare
next one
zones.
though too, it's just like so when we talk about the location. So obviously they can't use the Shrek building this year because they're refurbing it for something else.
Hmm.
So I wonder, is this going to go in? Is there another building back there I'm unaware of? I wonder where they're going to put that. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you might know, but
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to kind of see where they put that because they have it, like you said, they have it in between the store and Minions. So where in there is a place to put a house? So
I'd
that'll be
have
interesting to
to. I
find
mean,
out.
I'm sure they have at some point. I'm sure there's a sound. I don't. You might be able to wrap into the back of like a sound stage from over there.
Yeah,
And I
potentially,
could be way off, but I don't think there's space back there for a tent. And I'm sure they've used this
right?
location before, and I'm sure I'm showing my like, immature knowledge.
Oh
But
yeah, we definitely don't know everything, obviously.
no,
So there
no.
probably is something back there, but unless they can stick, I don't think they can.
But it's an interesting spot because I don't remember going to a house there, and there could have
Right.
been one at one point, but I don't remember going
Yeah, I mean,
through one in
unless it
that area,
ends up
which is
being,
cool though.
yeah, unless it ends up being in the Shrek building, it's just stuck there for the moment. I don't know, but
Yeah, because well, the Shrek building one that they usually have on the map is on the back end. This is like right to the left of that initial scare zone.
right,
So it's a kind of across from Shrek.
yeah,
Um,
be
so we'll
interesting to
see.
find what happens.
All right, location B, which on speculation map 2.0 was Dead Man's Wharf, which
Yep,
looks like it's right around the Jimmy Fallon area, if I'm looking at it correctly.
yeah, well, it's the one that's where
That's
Ghostbusters were. It's where the stage. You go behind the stage.
Yeah, that's where B was for 2.0. But now on speculation map 3.0, there is a location change. And that location B is now Rip Ride Rocket, which is that bigger
You know,
soundstage. And returning from the dead, no pun intended, absolutely pun intended, the
from
Evil
Star Trek
Dead
One.
is back from speculation map version 1.0. On
Yeah,
2, it got the axe, and now it's back on 3 in a whole different location. So interesting. Maybe our killer review of The Evil Dead a couple months ago wasn't completely in vain.
no, maybe not. I mean, they they must have seen something that made him rethink. Well, is it really gone or is it really gone? So Okay, I mean, it's back. We'll see what happens. Let's see if it sticks around. But I mean, how excited are you? I mean, obviously, we weren't very excited the first time. Like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine you're too excited to see it come
No,
back either. But
if it's there, it's there. Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a cult classic. It's definitely, you know, testing the um it's going to stand the test of time for that horror genre and that do-it-yourself
for
style
sure,
area. But as far as how, I mean, it doesn't get me going personally. I understand why some people, have much more affection towards this. Um, compared to the other stuff on the map, for me, it's not something I'm clamoring for, but it's not something I hate. Now, one thing I do think is interesting enough because the whole Stranger Things being missing,
yeah,
um, I don't know how they got to the Evil Dead, but there's similarities in this new season of Stranger Things imagery wise to the Evil Dead. So is that something that's being misinterpreted? Misinterpreted?
potentially, or maybe it's intentionally throwing people
Oh,
off. I mean,
like
so I
maybe
was. I
they're
mean, what I was gonna say is that like looking at the map as it sits right now, like, are you excited about the IPs? I mean, we've talked about Halloween already in the previous episode, but like,
no.
compared to what it was either in Spec Map 1 or Spec Map 2, I mean, the IPs don't really scream like, oh, I gotta be at this
Yeah,
event
there's
for
really
that particular
yeah, for
house or
me,
whatever.
I don't see like a super strong selling IP for
Halloween
that
is
horror
probably the
crowd.
one, right? I mean, Halloween's probably the one that is really the strongest seller as it sits today on Spec Map 3.
Yep.
Obviously, it's going to bring people in because everyone likes Michael Myers and likes that early 70s,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, early 70s, late 70s, early 80s slasher. Um, but I really think that like if they did truly remove Stranger Things and it's actually not going to be a house, like where's our? I'd be surprised if that doesn't come back. I guess my point is that like I would wholly expect that Evil Dead will drop off again and we'll get Netflix something, whether it's
Something, yeah.
Stranger Things or something else. Um, I mean, unless something fell
Yeah.
through or they were trying to get it done, but it didn't really get done. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I would be surprised because, like, again, like you said, Evil Dead's a classic. It's one of those movies that will stand the test of time. Do I sit here today going, man, if this is a house, I can't wait to see it? Probably not, because again, it's not like anything we haven't seen before. I mean, zombie-ish type
Hmm.
movie. It's not obviously not zombies as we know them today, but like the point is like it's I don't know, just not exactly one that like makes me go, that's the one I got to get to first, you know?
No, that's this as the IPs stand right now, there's nothing that jumps out off the map and is like, I am your
Right.
money house. I am your money
Right.
IP. I'm going to draw everybody here.
Exactly.
You can make an argument for something later on the map, but as
Yeah.
far as like the horror movie crowd, that that quintessential name doesn't really seem to be there.
Right.
All right, so let's move to C. So location C on version 2 was Bug House. And that was originally up past Jimmy Fallon, which is where Tooth Fairy was last year, if I'm reading the
Mhm.
map correctly.
Yep.
Now, C is the Jimmy Fallon queue, I believe it is. And that is Halloween, a house that has been confirmed, but has it on this map in a completely different location. Previously, it had it over in one of the parade warehouses. Now, Halloween has moved up to the Jimmy Fallon queue line. So we talked about that last time during that Halloween announcement episode that putting it into one of those bigger areas. Um, there's a difference in that sense of what
Mhm.
kind of setting are we going to get for Halloween? Because
I think
when
yeah,
you put it
right.
in those smaller ones, it's easier to have that small claustrophobic feel. But much like Chainsaw last year, when it gets into that bigger house, does it
Bigger
lose a
production
little bit of
value.
that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it definitely loses some of the claustrophobia, but I think it for the property, I think it benefits in the sense that you get like with the Chainsaw House, you get a little bit more production value, you get a little bit more you get, lights and noise and music, and there's just more I think there's just more they can do when they're in a soundstage. So I think putting Michael in a soundstage is going to be really good for them.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know if it's been done before in a soundstage. I thought that it was the last time they did it in a pop-up tent. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not an expert, but if it hasn't been done on a soundstage, I think it's good for it. I think we're gonna get a really nice, well done, big, you know, set piece in the beginning where we'll get the Myers house, full facade. Not that they couldn't do it in a pop up house in Poppington. I'm sure they could. I'm sure they have.
Yeah, they did at 24 the original Halloween house was Sprung Tent 2, which is where Wicked Growth was
Right.
last year.
So I mean, again, looking at Wicked Growth, really great set design, awesome set pieces, and very good facade. But I think with the added height and open area space you get with a soundstage, I think is going to help this house be even better. Plus, I
Yeah,
just can't
no,
wait
it
to
does.
walk in when you get to the very front from the queue and you start hearing the
Yeah.
that's gonna give me goosebumps. So I can't wait for that one.
I am excited for that. And like we just came off the Evil Dead talking about, IP brandness and stuff like that. Obviously Halloween's a
Well,
big
this is
one.
the draw, right?
But this is the draw right now. But
That's it right
I
now. Yeah.
still don't think in comparison to like you look at the couple years past with Stranger Things, with Ghostbusters. I don't know if Halloween has that pulse still, just because it has been at the event. Like the name has been at the event before. I think if you put like a Scream up there, um,
Oh yeah, probably.
you know what I mean? Like I think it's just
It's more
something
relevant
fresh and new.
today. Yeah.
Like we were referring to Halloween as like a placeholder, not to diminish the property by any means, but it's just it has been there. So like, are you excited for it? Yes, but if you were, in the middle of the U.S., is that going to pull you down to Orlando? Maybe,
Right. Who
maybe
knows?
not.
I mean, maybe not. But we get to see what the rest of these houses end up,
Yeah,
finishing up or coming together as, because um it's kind of one of those, like, I think for a lot of people could just be like the sweetener. So once they kind of like give us all the rest of them confirmed and they have
hmm
a couple big names or big ideas that they really are going to draw people in, you've got Halloween that'll be like, and also we get to go see Michael again. So I think for a lot of people it's kind of like the sweetener to the rest of them. For me it's a big draw because I haven't been through a Halloween house before.
yeah,
um but obviously I'm the exception to the rule because I'm so new to Halloween Horror Nights as far as at least attending is concerned.
yeah. All right, so moving along to D. So on speculation map 2, location D was to the right side of C, which is where Icons was last year, and that was Universal Monsters: The Mummy versus the Wolfman. Speculation map 3 has location D being back on that left side, which we talked about was Tooth Fairy, and that is now El Chupacabra. So this is an original that has been on the speculation maps from the start. So again,
Yep.
these locations have been getting kind of flip-flopped around. This was originally on version 2. El Chupacabra was in the Fast and Furious lane. Now D Chupacabra has moved all the way to the front of the park area.
Mm-hmm.
So again, not much to say about this story. There's a couple coming up that, story wise, we can't comment on, but it is interesting that 1, 2, 3 of these original houses or 2 of them at least have been on the map since the first go
Oh yeah,
around.
I
So
think pretty much three of them in some way or shape or form has been on
yeah,
the map since one. And maybe moving Chupacabra up means it's probably not confirmed, but pretty close to confirmed. And if it
yeah,
really is going to stay in this location, Universal's, they might think pretty highly of it
hmm
to put it in this location, if you know what I mean.
yeah, it's a good spot to be. And it's stuck around this long, so I'll be interested to see what this house ends up turning out to be. I kind of expect maybe like a tagline at some point coming out. Maybe not
Probably,
just El
yeah.
Chupacabra, but like the urban legends El Chupacabra, so they can kind of dive into stuff like that down the line. But
And I think having the font type too, again,
mhm,
doesn't confirm it, but at least gives it more credence because, I don't think the Horror Nightmares guys like just came up with their own font for each of these names. I think that they got these fonts from somewhere, um,
yeah,
and maybe it lends more credence to it being really what's going to happen. But I am really interested to kind of see what happens with this house. If you think about it in the sense of Yeti from a couple of years ago, Yeti was in a stage, and I think part of it was because they needed that um, sensory effect of being really cold. So
Yeah.
maybe that means Chupacabra needs some sort of effect that can only be achieved in a soundstage, and that's why they've got it stuck where it is right now.
All right. The next one, this one excites me now too. So on speculation map
Yep.
2.0, it was El Chupacabra. Previously, the location E was the Fast and the Furious lane. Now, speculation map 3.0, Dead Man's Wharf has now moved up to location E where Icons was, which is again
Mm-hmm.
a very big
The
location,
soundstage.
and
Yep.
it really excites me because with D and E, you got Chupacabra and Dead Man's Wharf right next to each other.
Yeah.
That
So you're
excites
gonna
me.
be like in one line and then right in the next one once you're done with the other one.
Yes. And I mean, look at last year. I mean, Icons was a fairly decent line size, but not crazy. And Tooth Fairy was essentially a walk on. Maybe that had to do with it being there the year before. I'm sure it did.
Yeah, probably.
But it's not your super heavy hitters. I mean, that if this map stays the same, you have 3 houses before you get to these 2. So they are kind of like buried a little bit. So that I might like hanging out in that corner. If I'm being
Yeah.
honest with that, if
To be
we get
honest,
that, if it has a good scare zone, those 2 houses, it's a win. And the tribute store.
yeah, and to be honest with you, for me, I think that eventually we'll do this episode again, but like if Deadman's Wharf sticks on here, and at this point, I'm pretty sure. I think we can safely say it's probably going to get confirmed sooner or later. Deadman's Wharf is going to be one of the longest waits of the night, and I'll call that right now.
Yeah,
I think that
it would be up
I
there
think
for me.
I mean, yeah, and I think that like you, I mean, like we've talked about, this was a scare zone before. This has never been a house.
Mhm.
He was, it was put in with Eddie's scare zone last year.
Yep, he had a little stage over there.
It's popular. I think it's the one original people have been clamoring for. I don't think you're the only one that's been super excited about it. So
No.
I think that this is probably going to be one of the highest weights of the night. Maybe
Mhm.
not on average, but I think on busier nights, this is one's going to reach upwards of 90 minutes. So who knows? But yeah, being in that area, I don't know if it's, I don't necessarily call those two areas buried, because I think, yeah, a lot of people kind of do them in order, but at the same time, I think a lot of people also kind of do what we do, is they kind of go towards the back in one way or the
Mhm.
other, and
And
they
work
work
your
their
way
way
around.
front. So they either go back down to D&E and come back down that main drag, or they go down to G&H and come back this way. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
But if it
being
stays like this with those 2 there, I think I'm
Yeah.
going to be switching from Duff Gardens to Finnegan's for my stay and stream.
Oh, but hey, I'm down with either. They both sell beer, but
Yeah.
I think the cool thing too, again, much like we said with El Chupacabra, I think with Dead Man's Wharf, if it's in a sound stage, that gives them so much opportunity to do some really good effects. You're going to get a lot better fog effects, which I think you need in a Dead Man's Wharf style house. Like, you need to have the fog, you need to have the smell of the ocean, the smell of the sea. You need to
Mhm.
have the noise, the seagulls. Yeah, build a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
ship facade. Like, there's so much you can do with it, and I think it needs to be in a soundstage, and that's just an opinion I have. But again, I'm not saying that Universal isn't capable of doing great things in pop up tents. Obviously, look at Pumpkin Lord, but I think Dead Man's Wharf is just one of those that needs to be in a big open area where they have a ton of space to work with.
Mhm. All right. So this is where stuff gets moved around a little bit more too. So speculation map version 2.0. We are looking at the Horrors of Blumhouse, the Black Phone, and Freaky. Now on version 2.0, that location was by the MIB tent, if I'm looking at it correctly, over in that little area where Scary was. Now on map 3.0, that location is completely absent. And
Yep.
the F location is now over where Fast and Furious is.
Fast and
Still
Furious,
the Horrors of Blumhouse, Black Phone, and Freaky. So that house has not changed, but the location has changed. So it's interesting that they've had the MIB tent like in use, not in use. It's been like flip flop. So it's just have they
Yeah, it's
been
interesting.
seeing construction over there? Or is there a secret house they're not telling us about?
No, you think we're gonna get the secret 11th house?
I mean,
The rumored.
yeah, they have the locations. If
They
they're
have
not
the
getting rid of it,
space. They
if
have
they're
the
not
space.
getting rid of it and they're gonna put Witch over in that other spot up front, you got 5 houses right up front, and then you got like 2 in the back, 2 in the side, 1 in the corner. I mean,
But you get
you
a
got
big
the
chunk of
budget.
space with nothing
You
there,
got the money. So
Mhm.
we'll see. I doubt that's. I don't think anybody's even
Yeah,
talked about that.
no.
But the fact that these locations have flip flopped around so much shows
Right.
that they do have the capability to do that if they want to.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, Horrors of Blumhouse. Not much else to speak about other than what we talked about last time
Mhm.
because Black Phone has still not come out, and Freaky we did our killer review on. So
We did.
if you haven't
Black
listened to
Phone
that,
comes out in
check
a
it out
couple
now.
weeks, doesn't it? Or next week, the
I
week
think
after?
so. I think it's the end of June.
Comes out soon.
So we'll have to
Been seeing
check that out.
trailers for it.
So, Speculation Map 2.0, Location G, was the over by the sprung tents in the back is where Wicked Growth was last year. And that was Underground Creatures original. Now, that is where Bug House is going, supposedly.
Yep.
Bug House made its way onto the Speculation Map 2.0. Before that, I don't remember if it was on 1 at all, but
I don't think it was. I think it was just 2.
no. So Bug House, yeah, still we've had some time to like sit and think about it, but really the only stuff I can like really imagine that I could hope for is that it would be, like giant sized attack of the bugs. It's like a sci-fi house, a cheeky something you'd see on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than I hate bugs and it'd probably be my worst nightmare, and I can't wait because it'll be one of the few ones that I walk through and actually like have to kind of like hold on to somebody. So I don't know, we'll see, but again, it's one of those ones where it's like, Bug House literally could be anything. So we have to kind of just bide our time and hope that something comes out and gives us a little bit more information about what's going to be in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely still very vague.
It's too vague. The name is
the
name is too vague to really make any super. I mean, other than like bugs in a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bugs in a house.
Yeah. Other than that, we got nothing.
Yep.
So next up, this is where things get a little
this is
sad
like
here.
a brandy new one.
This is
obviously
big one,
Witches
so
too, but this is big because this is a sequel.
Before we talk about this, moment of silence. Moment over. The Pumpkin Lord is not on this map anymore.
Sure. Right, there's no Pumpkin Lord on the map. I thought we had kind of established that, but yeah, I'm sad.
Yep.
I'm a little sad.
H was the Wicked Growth 2, which was going to put it right back over in the same little corner that it was. But H is where I believe Puppet Theater was on the right side, if I'm going back in time correctly.
Yes, yeah,
I think so.
Yes,
Puppet Theater was on the right, so it was going to
Puppet
swap.
Theater went down the right side. Yeah, it's on the Yep.
So now, instead of Wicked Growth 2, now we have Seeds of Extinction 2. Another sequel. That's an interesting turn of events. I'm not sure where this information came about. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd be very curious where. I mean, if you're looking at it, Wicked Growth with all the vines and the floral stuff is Seeds of Extinction, similar, style of thing. I could see how one could get those two confused if you're working on very vague information. So we'll see if this sticks or not. This was a very well-loved house. This was at HHN
28.
28?
Yep.
28. This was in a parade house. And pretty much this was like a meteor struck. These vine creatures took over the world. And it was really cool. It was an old, dilapidated, rundown world, and plants and these like evil vine creatures took over and scared you. I believe it was a very well-renowned house.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those campy, like you were saying before with Bug House, kind of like like a they or whatever, or them, whatever that movie was from like the 40s or 50s with the big ants. It's kind of like that type of thing where like meteor hits, Earth in Arizona, and that that we're Area 51, that whole big like extraterrestrial type part of the world, type part of the country, and you walk through like a dilapidated, I think it's a mall and some other things, and yeah, it's like evil plants, I guess, basically take over. And it's interesting because like to me, I almost think Bug House and Seeds of Extinction 2 could almost kind of work together, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
irradiated bugs from the meteor that fell in Seeds of Extinction 2. I don't think they're going to tie in the two houses like that.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because on the trivia on one of these sites, it says that the Seeds of Extinction maze was inspired by the 2013 video game The Last of Us.
Okay. That
So did we think
Yeah.
that The Last of Us
Yep.
was going to be here because there was sprinkles for seeds? Um,
Yeah,
who knows?
maybe. I mean, because The Last of Us was on at least Spec Map 1, so that makes actually it makes kind of sense. So maybe
Hmm.
they saw something to the effect of Last of Us, and then that led into Seeds of Extinction 2, or maybe they're thinking that what they saw wasn't exactly wrong. It's just not Last of Us. It's what
Yeah.
Seeds of Extinction was and became, and let's put a second one in there. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. I mean, again, I'm never one to poo-poo more originals or different originals. So
No.
I've obviously didn't get to do the first one, so it'll be interesting to see the second one up close. So
Yeah,
who knows?
it's. I mean, I did do it. I can't remember if I was. I think I was living here at that time, but I
Well,
didn't
28, yeah,
frequent
because
as
28 was
often as I had.
2018.
Um, I do remember going through the house, not a tremendous amount, but I don't think it was ever one with like a long wait. I don't think it was something in that sense of like wicked growth. Obviously, I think over the last couple of years too, the event's taken off a little bit crazier. So it's people have flocked to it a little bit more. But I could be wrong. But it's just it seems like a really weird house to be adding at this point in the game,
Yeah, I agree.
especially
What's
taking
ironic?
off one. Was that-
What's ironic is if you look at the house list for 28, you had Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, with Seeds of Extinction. You had The Horrors of Blumhouse with Seeds of Extinction. You had a Stranger Things house. I think it was the first one. You had Slaughter Cinema. So like it's almost like it's following a pattern a little bit.
Yep, I
So
could see that.
I
I
mean
mean,
maybe we will get a Slaughter. I mean the thing is like we said the last two releases that they've dropped, they've been following this theater or movie theming, right? So we were like thinking maybe Slaughter Cinema, maybe something like that might come back. It's just
yep.
ironic that we're getting Seeds of Extinction 2 now in this spec map at the same time that when one was there, you had a Halloween house, you had
Now that you brought up like
a
28, I'm looking
Blumhouse,
through it, and there's a lot of connections.
right? So
A
it's
lot.
like, it's almost like, it's almost like a pattern
Once
to a
we, all
point.
right, I have a terrible memory, but you remember this. Once we discuss this, like this map fully, and then we have our little round table of stuff that's kind of come and gone. Let's dive into some 28 stuff and just kind of once we have
Yeah,
all of our cards on the table for this map, we can just. I think it'll be fun to look through these things because there's a lot on here that connects to other stuff we haven't talked about yet. So
right.
we'll keep on trudging through, but we'll remember 28 and we'll come back to that because that's interesting. Now that I start looking at some of those things, it's
And then
pretty.
compare the scare zones too. So
Exactly. That's what I started
yeah,
looking at too. I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here. All right, so let's move along now to location I, which originally on 2.0 was Halloween, which is over in those like storage warehouses for the parade
yeah,
floats,
these are the
which is
storage
where
houses.
the
Beetlejuice
left side was Beetlejuice,
no, the left side,
Hill House.
Hill House, and then the right side was Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Yeah. So location I now, those two locations are finally the same. But now instead of Halloween over there, that's where they have Universal Monsters Legends Collide, which is a big location for it. Very much just like where
Well, that's where it was the first time they had
the original
Universal
Monsters
Monsters.
one was at
Mhm.
29.
2019. Yep,
Yeah,
2019.
29. So I mean, this is our second house on the map that is confirmed.
It's confirmed. Yep.
So we know where we're getting. Location wise, we don't know if that's actually confirmed or not. Maybe they know something that we don't, but I mean, they have speculated this house as Mummy versus Wolfman is now Legends Collide, as we know. So it's there on the map. There's not much to talk about. We did a whole episode talking about that and what that whole house could entail when they dropped that announcement. So go back a couple weeks, you can find that one there. Now, number J, the infamous The Weekend,
He's still here.
still on these maps. So I
Still on the
mean,
map.
it's got to be as close to as confirmed as possible. I
Yeah, I
think.
mean, I would assume so. I know that like again, he's posted things on his Twitter. I mean, they haven't come out and said that it's confirmed, but I think at this point we can say that he's probably going to stick around. So
Yeah.
let's see what happens. I'm interested. Like I said, I'm
Yep.
still intrigued by it. I can't wait to see kind of what they come up with for it. So, or what they've come up
Hmm.
with it for it. So,
And
and who knows? Maybe he'll show up and we'll actually get to meet him.
that'd be fine. But
I doubt it, but
well, when
you
we
never know.
talk about HHN 28, I'm going to circle back to the weekend.
Yeah, we'll circle
So
back to that.
I'll circle back to that because I got something that kind of connects there too. Maybe that would be very interesting. So those are the houses. So a lot of changes. Do you want to talk about random changes now for the houses? Surprise, not surprise, location changes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Um,
going on in this thing.
I mean, I don't put as much stock into location. Well, I shouldn't say that. Location changes. I mean, to a point, I put some stock in it. Like I said before, I think that putting certain houses in the larger sound stages, I think, give you more ability to do certain things with it. So, I am, as of right now, obviously excited for Halloween. I think I'm one of the people in a certain camp that Halloween will be the draw for me. If it
Hmm.
stays kind of like this, where you have a bunch of cool originals and some, decent IPs, Halloween being the biggest, I think for me, it's a big draw. I know, like you said, a lot of people that have been here for it before, it's not a big deal as much as it should be. Obviously, we want Halloween 3, not going to be the same this year, but whatever. Point is that I've never seen Michael up close, so I'll be pumped for that. But
I
for
think
me,
I
like,
think Halloween still has like a strong power. Like I don't want to diminish like Halloween's rep, but I think just because it has been there in previous times, it does lose its. Not for me. Like I love it. I can go through the house tremendously, and I know Halloween 1 is different than Halloween 2 and 4, and I get that. But I think that just the name itself, from like an outside perspective, if you see Halloween, you're like, oh, he's already been there. Like those semi casuals that go. But I'm
yeah,
also very interested too. The whole no Netflix stuff that's really throwing me off.
yeah, I think we kind of started to talk about it in the beginning. The fact that they had Fear Street on it, then they had Stranger Things, and now we have nothing from Netflix. I have a feeling that something will drop off. I mean, at this point, the only thing that really probably could is Evil Dead, maybe Witch, if that's not exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, the thing is like they have 5 originals on here, and they've got 5 non-originals, and the numbers work out. Like there's probably gonna be 5. There should be 5 originals and 5 non-originals. So I don't see any of the originals as we have them right now dropping off. They may change, like they
Hmm.
have,
But
but
it's
they're
gonna be
gonna stay
5.
originals. So the only one for me, the only one that would really drop off at this point and become a Netflix property is Evil Dead, because it's already fallen off once and it came
Yeah,
back.
I think so. I think that one's up in the air. I still wholeheartedly believe that Stranger Things will be on this.
I do
Will be
too.
here.
I think that with the success of the season, how popular it was, not to say that's a driving force, because they would have already had to start working. They would have already had to start working on it. So if it's gonna be there, it's already there, and they've been working on it for
Mhm.
the last few months. So it just comes down to, is it actually gonna be there, and is it taking the place of Evil Dead? I mean, I don't. I would be 100% shocked if we get a final confirmation of all 10 houses and there isn't a single Netflix property on here. Now, I'm only
Yep.
saying I'll be shocked because of the last 3 events, they've had Netflix in some capacity there,
Yep. And
and it
they
seems like
were
they had a working relationship with them.
yeah, and they're 2 for 3. If you ask those fans, they like Stranger Things 1, Stranger Things 2 and 3 were meh, and then The Hill House was good.
Yeah,
They're successful. Is it successful on Netflix end? Yeah, I don't know, but I think for Horror Nights goers, I think those houses are special.
yeah,
And I do
right.
expect Stranger Things to be back on
I
this map.
agree. I think so too. I don't
All
think
right.
Evil Dead's going to stick around. I think Evil Dead is, again, I don't know. I think it's theirs. We said Halloween was going to be a placeholder, and we were wrong about that. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick by my guns and say Evil Dead is a placeholder, and we're gonna get Stranger Things again
That
near
and
closer to the event. But I'm not
you can
gonna.
get rid of Blumhouse too. That's fine with
Yeah, I
me.
mean that's true too. But I just think that with the Blumhouse one, it kind of got more solid as we've gone over the last 3 maps. Like it went from kind of being something. I think was it did it say Blumhouse on the first map? I don't
I
remember,
don't think
but
it was on 1. I think it appeared last on 2.
Right. So, but they added the black phone and freaky to it. So
But it is other than the weekend, from 2 to 3, it's the only house that has like stayed in this. Actually, no, they did move it. Weekend's the only thing that stayed in the same location,
yeah,
but
it stayed in J. I don't
yeah.
know.
So
I just feel like
who knows?
I feel like the horrors of Blumhouse, Black Phone and Freaky is too specific for it to be like, we're not really that sure. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
it just said like Blumhouse house, then I'd be like, all right, yeah, I mean that's pretty vague, but because it's so specific, I have a hard time believing that could potentially fall off. That's why for me, I'm sticking to my guns. I think Evil Dead is the only one at this point on this list, at least as IPs are concerned, that we could see drop off of it
yeah.
before
For IPs, that one's I think the most flexible.
tenuous.
So let's go into these scare zones because now, if we look back to Speculation Map 2.0, there was only one scare zone, and that was Scarecrow.
Yep. Now we got
So now on Speculation Map 3, they
5 of
got
them.
all these filled out. Now, how
Mhm.
true they are, time will tell. Again, everything is based off of rumor, speculation, and stuff like that. But just going down the list, I really like it because it's going to stick onto that trend that we talked about.
Mhm.
Halloween 31,
You get lots of
keep it
pumpkins.
classic. Keep it classic. So Scare Zone K, that's right where you walk in. And I forget the term that I'm so bad with names and stuff like that. But right when you walk into the entrance, this one is just referred to as traditional Halloween. And like at the beginning of the episode when we talked about the witch, the A house location is now right at the front of that scare zone. So that leads me to believe like that classic witch, classic Halloween, like it's just kind of cool that it's blending it all together. So
Yep.
when you see traditional Halloween, what are you picturing for that scare zone up front?
Honestly, I picture Trick or Treat,
Yeah.
the movie.
Yep. I have the pumpkin stilt walkers. I was thinking trick or treat.
Yep.
I was thinking trick or treaters,
Yep.
like cobwebs. And if we're going traditional Halloween, you're right there with the witch. I mean,
jack-o'-lanterns, witches.
it's going to be a little similar. But I like it. I
Small Town
start out,
USA.
start out the
Leads.
event traditional.
Sorry. Yep.
You're good. No, like just start that event like that. I mean, that's just quintessential Halloween right there. But yeah,
Yeah.
trick or treaters, little kids running around with masks and stuff. I get that. I see that. So we'll just move up. Location L, which is over New York
one.
City. I think that is
The biggest space as far as scare zones are concerned, I think.
Yeah. Yep. That's so this is where Seek and Destroy was last year, and this one is just labeled Candy Mutants. So sticking with sci-fi, I guess, over there. Yeah, I don't know what to go with on that, but I picture like human bodies like encompassed into like big hard candies or something like that.
Yeah, or like the Blob, but like it's Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah. I mean, when I think Candy Mutants, it's interesting because it's kind of sounds for me like I'm getting a little sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
That's what they did last time.
Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, but it's like candy. Honey, I Created Candy Monsters.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Candy Mutants. Not going to put too much stock into it, but we'll see. M is interesting. So this is over.
Really
Is that they call that San Francisco? Is that the Bay Area?
This is where
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 Crypt TV
Rob
was
Zombie
last time.
and Crypt TV was last time. Yeah.
Yep. So this is called Treeks and Foons. Treeks and Foons appeared last year in the Eddie's Lights Camera Action Scare Zone, but they have been
Didn't
in
know
this
that.
event. Yeah, so they're those big like goofy things with like the big popsicles and like.
I didn't know what they were called. Okay, that's
Yep.
all right.
Yep.
You realize that it's like a mix up of Freaks and Tunes?
Yeah.
That is called Treeks and Foons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these things have been around for a while. So actually, I listed out their stuff. So they had a Treeks and Foons Scare Zone in 2002. They were in the Scary Tales 2 house in 2002 as well. Funhouse of Fear, Disorientorium. They were in those houses in 2003, 2004. So they had a hot streak. Then they had the Midway of the Bizarre in 2007 and Treeks and Foons, 2 scare zones in 2007. And then they were in the Horror Nights the Hallowed Past house in 2010, and then last year in the Scare Zone. So they're characters that have been around the event for for a fair amount of time. They're recognizable. So it'd be interesting to see if they make that comeback over there. That's definitely a photo oppy area. It's very, very goofy.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that sticks around. Now making our way over to N, Scarecrow. It's still sticking around. That is over in the location where we had. Oh, what was there last year?
Well, last year it was Terra Crentis.
Yes. Yep.
And
Terra
then
Crentis.
the year and a half before that, it was
Vikings.
Vikings and Dead.
Yep. So that's Scarecrow. Whether that is, Scarecrow the Reaping reference,
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
who
sticking
knows?
along with the traditional Halloween theme
Yeah.
would be kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Evil scarecrows.
Yeah, I'd be
I don't know
interested
how
in
you.
that. I mean,
I don't know how you do a scarecrow anything and not reference the reaping and now
yeah.
Pumpkin Lord. You know what I mean? Like, God, he's got to be there. He's got to be there again. I refuse to believe they're not going to bring him back.
I'm kind of not sold on Seeds of Extinction too. I think Wicked Growth will be back.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that over the course of the next couple of weeks. But who knows?
Yeah, but I'm not sold. I'm still in that camp
the
that I
thing
think
is with you saying that the first one was based on the that video game in
The Last of Us. It was like
The Last of Us and being on the map. It makes more sense to me now. Not to go back to talking about houses.
Yeah.
Just makes so much more sense now that you say that. But whatever. Point is whatever. So on to the next scare
I'm not
zone.
sold on it. And then making our way downtown is and that is just labeled as vampires. So that's where Lights Camera Action was last year. It's where Vanity Ball was.
Yep.
And for me, when I see vampires, I think of Vamp. So
Well,
are they doing like another Vamp? Are they like
Horror Nights, that's kind of like their big thing is like the Vamp theming.
the Vamp?
It
55,
traditional vampires,
85.
but I think it's too easy.
And just vampires kind of bores me. So I would like to see if it was just like Vamp Halloween, like a classic Halloween party. It's not really a decades thing. That'd be interesting. I mean, just vampires kind of doesn't do it for me, really.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, it's fine. It'd be fine as like a nice, elegant house, but a scare zone, it's a little bit tougher to portray that like elegance out in the street, unless it's what we do in the shadows, then that's fine. But yeah, I mean that doesn't do much for me. But again, it is a classic Halloween villain, I guess, is a way to refer to it. So it makes sense. It fits. But those are our scare zones. What do you think on those? I'm glad we finally got some names out there, whether they stick or not, because we get something to talk about it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for a lot of it because I think traditional Halloween, there's a lot of things they could do with that, even though it's pretty standard. Candy Mutants, I'm intrigued by because they can go a different way with that. They can a couple different ways with that. And then Scarecrow and Vampires. I think, and like we were saying earlier, I think there's definitely a pattern here between 28 and this year with some of these scare zones and the houses themselves. But either way, we can kind of talk some about that, like you said before. Let's talk about the two shows, which are returning shows.
Yeah, two returning shows, the same as last year. So they got them both back on the map. So they had Marathon of Mayhem. I think that's a shoe-in. No description on that. But the one that just popped back up is Nightmare Fuel coming back. So that'll be interesting. I'm very excited for that. I know that when we did our original hype list going into 30, I was not too impressed by the name.
Not hyped on it, no.
Not at all. And it completely switched my mind and became one of my favorite staples of the event.
Yep, we were wrong.
So really I'm excited. I'd be very interested to see them come back and do like, again, 31st, a you can base a show off of classic Halloween, like shticks.
Easily. Easily, yep.
So we'll see. So that's our speculation map 3.0. Do you have anything else before we do this impromptu like HHN 28 comparison? Because
no,
it caused a lot.
I think I've pretty much said what I wanted to say about it. I'm excited. I think that like you said, I think the biggest interesting tidbit that we don't really have an answer for yet is why is there no house back where Men in Black is? Like, what's going on with that? Why did it get moved? Is it just for logistical purposes? Is it just because they needed to maybe had a bigger place to do it? For maybe the Fast and the Furious area has a better place to put up a tent or something like that. But
Mhm.
I'm interested to see why they did that. And is
Yeah.
there going to be a house there? Are they moving one back there? Yeah. So that's that for me. That other than that, I mean, I've said pretty much everything I need to say about what we have on this map as it sits right now.
Mhm. All right. So I'm looking at the haunted houses now for HHN 28. So first up, Stranger Things.
Which is the
That's
first
been something that has been speculated for this year. Like I said, I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if that was to make a return at some point. Then we go down and we have Trick or Treat, which lines kind of right up with the traditional Halloween scare zone for me. And also, you said Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dead Exposure, not really much there that has like a similarity thing.
Evil Dead Exposure. I think that's just
Yeah.
a little bit, but
Slaughter Cinema. Now, this is something that I was thinking would really piss off the HHN crowd that is like already butthurt about the weekend. So if you're
right.
butthurt about the weekend, like grow up. There's 9 other houses.
Well, yeah,
But
get
imagine,
over it.
but imagine, and the argument too for the weekend has been, well, have you seen his videos? Have you seen his music videos? What if it was like very like Slaughter Cinema esque into his like music videos and stuff like that? It's a real stretch, but it'd be really funny, like to take something that people really love and like pair it with something that they are like unjustly putting an opinion out on already.
Yeah, I
Be
mean,
funny.
we don't even turn this into like a why people are wrong or right, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with his music. It could just be something he's thought up as far as like horror or Halloween is concerned, because he might just be a fan, and like there's nothing wrong with that. They just don't know what else to title it because it's him. So he's obviously a draw. When you say The Weeknd, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, I'm intrigued."
They're gonna know what that is. Yeah, people know.
Mad.
But yeah, I mean,
That would be kinda
Bug
cool.
House for me gives me Slaughter Cinema vibes, like that cheeky 50s
Well,
side.
that's
You know,
exactly. Yeah, that's another
there's
thing I'm
something
thinking about too.
there.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, I mean, we were talking about how it's got that early 40s, 50s like campy sci-fi black and white, um, movie. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, them, the Blob, like things like that. So yeah, that's a good point. That could be almost Slaughter Cinema esque too.
Ask you. Nothing really for Carnival Graveyard, other than
Outside of
maybe
the
like Treeks and Foons.
or Treeks and
Yep.
Foons, yeah.
And then we have Seeds of Extinction, which
Which is
has
obviously
surfaced
a
onto this
sequel.
map. We have Poltergeist, which doesn't really line up
Yeah,
with
as of right now,
anything.
not really. Like, I mean, other than maybe traditional Halloween because ghosts and that sort of thing. But yeah, it doesn't really tie into anything like that.
Then we have Halloween 4, which obviously Halloween, Michael Myers.
And it's also the return of Michael Myers too, technically
Yeah.
this year because we haven't had him in a while, so he's returning.
We have the Horrors of Blumhouse. This is at 28, and it's speculated for 31. So it's interesting that they're double dipping on a lot of these from 28.
Right.
And
why it was
the last house was Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After, which that doesn't really go with anything. But and then when we look at
where it gets a little interesting too.
this
The
and then
scare zones.
This is very interesting. So
Super interesting.
28 had the Harvest, which
Scarecrow.
could line up Scarecrow-ish. They had Vamp 85, which Vampires is on the map. They had Twisted Tradition in Central Park, which lines right back up with Scarecrow, which lined right back up with Wicked Growth. Like, there's a lot of connections here.
And even like
Revenge of
Killer Clowns.
And Killer Clowns is very Treeks and Foony.
Treeks and Foons, yeah.
Very much like that.
It all lines up a little bit.
It does. It's as soon as you started talking about 28 and I started looking through these, I was like, man, these and 28 was a very, very fun year. So I I'll let them do their thing. I think Stranger Things should come back.
I believe so too. I think that
But it is just interesting how similar the properties from 28 are with 31 right now.
right, 100%. Yep, that's what it kind of stuck out to me, and I was looking through the list while you were talking, and I was like, "That's really funny how much of it, how patterned it is to 28."
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I thought of it is because I was like, "Well, I got to go look and find the original Seeds of Extinction because I don't know anything about it. I've never
Mm-hmm.
done it before." And then I see it was 28, and then I started looking through the list, and I'm like, "There was a Halloween Seeds of Extinction." So this is
Killer
interesting.
Clown. There's a lot there.
Yeah, a lot of tie-ins.
But yeah, that's all we got for that speculation map version 3.0. Like we mentioned at the start of our episode, if you're listening to this now on Friday, if you're listening during the weekend on Saturday or Sunday, and you are in the Orlando area, swing by Spooky Empire. We're going to be there.
Yeah.
It's our first time doing an event like this, so it would mean the world if you came and said hello.
And this is just me being, again, maybe I'm looking into this a little bit too hard, but the year that Dead Man's Wharf was a scare zone, Vamp 55 was a scare zone. Halloween Hell Comes to Haddonfield was a house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying,
There's a lot of weird stuff
funny.
going on.
It's funny, but yeah,
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
I'm not saying, but I am saying in a way. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I was just giving the spooky spiel. So if you're in the area, come on down, say hi. We don't bite. We have lots of cool little trinkets and stuff, and it'd be cool to say hello. So come on over.
Yep. Sure.
But really, until next time, this is Nick.
And this is Shamus.
Happy house.
It's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out, Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.